Good morning, everybody. It's early in the morning on December 25th. So, Mele Kalikimaka from the meeting place, Oahu, Hawaii. And I fully intended to have a good news story going out today. I was hoping to find one, but it's a wasteland out there for the legacy media for good news stories, but a cornucopia if you're looking for tragedies. I hope you're enjoying your Christmas regardless. I enjoyed my Christmas a day early. All the family got together yesterday and we exchanged presents and food and laughed and scratched and had a good old time. I hope your Christmas goes as well as mine did. Let's get on to this story though. It's from CNN. And it's a news story. The pandemic is forcing older workers to retire early. Now, man learns from other men. It sets us apart from the lower animals, doesn't it? We can learn from others' experience so we don't have to go through all the pain we did. So let's take this sad story as a learning experience and not make the same mistakes. First, let's get on with the first few paragraphs. Then we'll see the one person that they used to highlight this story with. New York, CNN Business. America has gone from having the strongest job market in decades. Thank you, President Trump. CNN is finally admitting that President Trump had a rip-roaring, rocking economy until the very opposite during the pandemic. Fuck you, Democratic governors in the states that crashed the economy. Why don't you people who have Democratic governors vote against them? For crying out loud. If your economy is in the toilet, and your next door neighbor is a Republican governor and their economy is rocking, instead of moving out of your state and voting Democratic, why don't you stay in your state and vote Republican? For older workers who have lost their jobs this year, the state of the labor market makes it harder to get rehired as the economy recovers, forcing many Americans to retire early. The U.S. economy shed more than 22 million jobs in the spring, but recovered more than half of them. That's right, they said more than half. That means the economy, although it's recovered some, it's still pretty much in the toilet. The job market's bounce back has been uneven. Young workers' participation in the labor force has nearly fully recovered, likely reflecting both lower health risks from the virus and a decline in college enrollment, while the participation of older workers and women has recovered more slowly. Yep, that's the way it also is, but it's also this too. If you lost your job and you were older, past 50 let's say, and your employer has opened his doors again. Now, does he want to hire you back with your increased health care costs and your higher salary, or does he want to go with a new man who's going to cost both lower in an hourly wage and less for health care? Well, if he's an honest employer who has loyalty to his workers, he'll hire the older worker back. Good luck finding that honest employer, though. Let's get on now with that single example that they show as an older employee and why you shouldn't follow their example. We are not ready, financially or mentally, to retire said Rachel E. from Virginia, who asked that her name be omitted to protect hers and her husband's privacy. The 66-year-old former government contractor was furloughed in April. 6 figures a year to instant poverty with 2 words. You're furloughed. It's more like forced early retirement, Rachel told CNN Business in an email. Let's dissect this a little bit. At 66-year-old, I wouldn't call that early retirement. I'd call that just about the normal retirement age. It used to be you'd get full retirement at 65, but Social Security raised 65, depending on the year you're born, to where for her to get what they consider full retirement, she probably has to be about 66 and a half. So she's only 6 months or so short, maybe, from getting full retirement. And also, notice how she said 6 figures a year. That's $100,000 a year. Most of us never make $100,000 a year in our lifetime. Now, there are a couple of years, and by a couple, I think it was 2 years, where I did happen to make $100,000 because I was in a very well-paying job, and I worked all the overtime that the law allowed. I voted for a schedule that allowed me to work Sundays because my job offered Sunday premium. I worked a job where I worked nights because I also got a premium for that. So I was actually making more money than my boss for a couple of years. And like her, I got furloughed from this high-paying job. I wasn't making $100K as a base salary, but like I said, for I think 2 years, I was able to pull $100K because of decisions I made, willing to work nights and weekends, and a lot of overtime. And I was an old man. I found out that since I was past 50, I couldn't get a job back in that field without leaving the island of Oahu, and my wife didn't want to leave. So I had to settle for a job that was paying a hell of a lot less money. But if you follow me at all, you know that I've brought up the old fable about the ant and the grasshopper. I've always been an ant. I've always saved for that winter. So when I had to settle for that job that paid one hell of a lot less than my former job, I was not only able to make it, I was still able to save, especially since that new job also allowed me a lot of overtime. I wasn't able to make as much as I did in my old job, but I was still more than able to make ends meet and put away some savings so that when I retired early at 63, I was financially stable. What kind of reckless life did this individual make that at 66 she wasn't able to retire happily? At 66, if you're still working and you're making $100K a year and you haven't saved up anything for retirement, you go from semi-wealthy to instant poverty? Well, you've got no one to blame but yourself. You've never grown up. You've been a Blanched Dubois.
Whoever you are, I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
Yeah, that. Don't be a Blanched Dubois. Be that worker ant.